Hello students, I am Manisha Raj. I am taking your paper Indian Economic Development since 1947 and we have already covered almost 2.5 of the module, and we are talking about the development process that was initiated with the independence era of Indian economy, and then what was the result of that development process, and then how did India get entrapped to the economic crisis. So today first we will talk about the problems that was generated in Indian economy, and then we'll see the new economic reforms of 1991. So today we are basically talking about first we'll see reasons behind the economic crisis. The first reason would be that it was Saddam Hussein's invasion over Kuwait. Now these are the main reasons which actually led to the economic crisis, and thereafter we had to frame the new economic reforms. The first one being the invasion over Kuwait. This Kuwait invasion was basically done to have control over the oil fields of the Arabic nations and the other Asian nations, so that you can dominate the industrial sector of the world over. Now Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait without any intimation, so suddenly the Kuwait country had to raise the prices of the oil, and they were unable to manage the war affair with the Iraqi nation. Therefore, this actually led to a spiraling effect of price rise for the petroleum sector throughout the world, and it sent ripples not only in Asian economies but also Western economies. As there was huge rise in the petroleum prices, it was very difficult for developing countries or underdeveloping countries like India, China, Sri Lanka, Bhutan to purchase oil and continue with the industrial production, because petroleum and petro products are one of the major causes of industrial development in any of the nation. And with the hike in the price, that also in an unplanned way led to enormous economic issues within a country. Now the next reason for this problem was inflation. We have already seen that inflation had reached into double digits. Somewhere around 12 to 14% inflation was noted in Indian economy by the end of 1980s decade and with the start of the 1990 decade. And during this phase, it was difficult to initiate with a new 5-year plan. Therefore, again the annual plans were taken up. So we had two annual plans, 1990-91 and 1991-92. And after the completion of the 7th 5-year plan, the 8th plan started in 1992. Now the third reason for this was the external debt. What was happening that because of growth and expenditure taking place within Indian economy had borrowed internally as well as externally, and the cost of meeting or servicing that debt was very huge. So with time we could see the mounting up of interest rates, the piling up of the principal amount, which actually became difficult to be sustained by a developing country like India, because Indian country or Indian government had also to look after the social schemes. For example, it was a democratic socialist nation, so the health expenditure, the education expenditure, women empowerment policies, everything required huge investment. And apart from this investment, the government was also facing the problem of nepotism and corruption. All this had led to piling up of the debt, and it was difficult for the Indian economy to service that debt. So there again we were falling dependent, or we were being into process to a situation like economic crisis. The last reason for this was heavy public expenditure. In the decade of 1980s, we have seen that consumerism saw a rise, and under consumerism, what happens that basically producing goods become very prominent, and these goods have a dead end. They do not help in further production, as well as they are white goods. They do not lead to any increase in efficiency in production measures. They are just consumed and the output of it is covered. So with the increase of the consumer goods industries like refrigerators, TVs, cycles, computers, etc., what had happened that telecommunication and the way of living for people became comfortable and easier. The standard of living suddenly jumped to a better height, but it did not lead to productivity within the economy. Also, by this time, the public sector units were facing huge profit issues as well as efficiency issues. So the production from them was declining and the debt out of these industries were increasing. So the government incurred huge public expenditure to maintain the loss-making public sector units, which was again a useless expenditure. And secondly, the government also had to take care of this rise of consumerism in India. It had to maintain the demand in India. Whenever there was an increase in the consumer goods demand in India, it had to relax its custom norms so that imports can take place. And because of this import process, we could see that with time, the income that the government could earn from the custom duties also declined in this phase. And later, through liberalization, there was again decline in the expansion of the economy. And all these together led to declining economic growth rate. As we can say that there was declining economic growth rate, it was difficult for the country to achieve higher levels of per capita income or higher levels of savings and investment. Plus, there was no unification or linkage between savings, investments and per capita income of the people. So slowly and slowly India was being trapped into a crisis-like situation. Therefore, after the 2 annual plans, we had to finally look up to IMF to help us for the problem of economic crisis, help us out of the problem of economic crisis, and we actually borrowed loan. We took loan from IMF. Now, in order to be more specific, we'll see that how economic reforms was initiated and what was the process. First, this economic reforms, it was the major problem was seen in the balance of payments of the economy. Overall, the expenditure was higher and the revenue that was being generated was lower. Now, this expenditure was internal as well as external, and it was productive as well as unproductive. And in the same way, if we talk about revenue, the revenue was also not growing to a greater extent. So all this actually led to the economic crisis like of situation. Now, if you are going through any economic crisis, then there are 2 international bodies that can actually help you move out of this crisis like situation. One is IMF, the other one is World Bank. As a closed economy, we had realized that it is difficult to sustain higher level of economic growth, and we were trapped in so many economic problems which had actually generated a situation of economic crisis. Now, with this, it was also realized that rather than being a closed economy, we need to open up. Now, for opening up, we had to look up to some international organization for assistance in terms of loan and policy framework guidelines. To that matter, India could approach to 2 different institutions. One was IMF, the other one was World Bank. Now, these 2 institutions, one is generally ruled by the European countries, the World Bank is ruled by the US countries. Though in recent years, in last 2-3 years, there has been a change in the governing body of these institutions. But at the time of 1991, this was a European country governed institution. This was a American country governed institution. And this IMF actually took care of the countries which faced problems because of the balance of payments issues. That means when there was a discrepancy between the expenditure and revenue in the balance of payments of a nation, or there was a problem in the balance of trade, then IMF would provide you tied or untied and guide you for inculcating the right process to economic growth rates. And in the same way, World Bank takes care of your development issues and economic growth issues. So what it does, it tries to see that if the economic growth is low and a country needs support, then maybe it can come up with projects, come up with financial assistance, guidance, manpower as well as subsidy, so that new projects can be initiated and that will lead to growth as well as development in the economy. For example, the electricity issues of Delhi government has been supported by the World Bank Corporation. So, but if we talk about 1991 situation and Indian concept, then India was facing the balance of payments problem. There was a discrepancy in the revenue and expenditure side. So, we had to go to IMF. Now, this IMF had given us certain guidelines which took us to the process of LPG. Now, this LPG stands for liberalization, privatization and globalization. And this was a process to achieve the new economic reforms. NER 1991. This policy was initiated on 21st July 1991 and India abided by the guidelines of IMF, wherein tried to take up the LPG model of growth that actually meant that we were moving from a closed economy era to an open economy era. Okay, and thereafter we'll see that under the new economic reforms, what were the major policy changes and what were the basic issues that were taken up and the government actually implemented them. So we'll see in the next classes that how the 1990 decades was one of the most economically active and positively dedicated economic decade for the Indian country, Indian economy. So in my next class we'll see that. Thank you so much.